Hey folks, Eddie from Totally Wired Guitars here, and boy, oh boy, today I am super duper excited because behind me here, I've got all four of the brand new Fender Vintera III offset guitars. That's the Jazzmaster, the Jaguar, the Mustang, and the Bass 6. And today we are going to be taking a first look at all of them. Unlike other videos that I've done, today is not going to be a deep dive, and instead we are just going to be getting first impressions out of the box, plug them in for a brief sound test. I've also got a number of the Vintera II and also Vintera I offset guitars behind me, so we can do some light comparisons. And then in the end, just for fun, I'm going to let you all know if I was to actually buy one of these, which one of them would be my top pick. Now, before we do anything else, I have to give a shout out and an immense thank you to Billy and the rest of our friends over at Zounds for sending these on loan to me to check out today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're actually going to be starting off with the Bass 6, and this is definitely one of the models that I am most excited about checking out today, namely because this is supposed to be a recreation of an early 60s Bass 6, and unlike my Lake Placid Blue Vintera II Bass 6, this one comes with the coveted Fender Bass 6 mute, which is incredibly rare to find. You would have to have a vintage one that actually came with it, or maybe get one of the custom shop models to actually have one of these. So it was very, very surprising when I saw the leaks for this series that the Bass 6 was going to be coming with the mute. Now, like all of the Vintera releases since the Vintera I series, all of these guitars today are going to be coming in a Fender Deluxe padded gig bag, and to be expected under the $1,500 price point, though it would have been nice, obviously, if they had come in hard shell cases if you were one of the folks that like those. Now, I do not even know which color we are getting here today because I didn't request any specific colors. So that's a fun little surprise. And oh man, I am so stoked for this. So stoked. Oh yes, we've got the candy apple red Vintera Bass 6 here. And there we are. Wowee. This thing looks frigging amazing. Holy smokes, folks. This is friggin' gorgeous. And wow, for a Bass 6, this is not actually as heavy as some of the ones that I've gotten in here, but I am just so frigging amazed. And I am so glad to see candy apple red making a comeback that used to be a very, very common color and kind of disappeared over the years. So because this is more of a first impressions video, I'm going to save going into detailed coverage of the specs for their actual individual deep dive videos. And you can obviously look up these specs yourself on the spec sheet on Fender's website. Wow, this just feels frigging awesome. Some initial observations here. As compared to the Vintera II, I feel like the neck on the new Vintera III is actually slightly thicker all across the board, and definitely feels rounder. The Vintera II has a slightly flatter neck with not as much shoulder as the new one. So those of you who prefer a fuller feeling neck will definitely dig the new Vintera III. Now, the main event on the Vintera III here is definitely the mute. And as we can see from the factory here, with it all the way down, unfortunately, none of our strings are actually being muted. So that is something that you can expect to have to do if you buy one of these, is actually set up that mute properly. And again, we're going to do that in our deep dive video when we throw this thing on the bench. Aside from that, it seems fairly decently set up from the factory. The action is a little bit higher than I would like, but still perfectly playable. And yeah, the other thing that I unfortunately have to report is this is the sleeve that came in the gig bag, and there is no vibrato arm in here, and there was no vibrato arm in the gig bag either. So I'm going to do a little bit more digging into the box to see if it actually is in there. But that would be disappointing, obviously, if you bought one of these brand new and were already from the top missing the vibrato arm. So yeah, I did just check the gig bag, and as you can see, this little sleeve here, it has not yet been opened. It's still, you know, vacuum sealed or whatever. And yeah, unfortunately, no vibrato arm, but that is something that's easy enough to rectify. You can reach out to your dealer or Fender, and I'm sure they can get one sent to you. Now, the finish on this is absolutely immaculate. I am not getting any kind of fret sprout or anything on here. Everything seems to have been finished to a very, very fine degree here. And another interesting finding on here that I was not expecting is high quality tuners. So these have the single line here, and I'm not sure if these are brand new. Again, we're gonna have to save that for the deep dive, but if these are what I think they are, these very well might be Goto SD91s from the factory, because this is what came on the AV 65 models, on the American Original 60s models. So yeah, that is a really nice detail if these are indeed those higher quality made in Japan tuners. The other thing that is very interesting, and I think this is going to be something that we find on all of the series, is that this time around, they've put the decal over the finish the way that they used to back in the day. The only sort of gripe that I've got here, which is very, very superficial and nitpicky, is the fact that the offset custom body decal here is more of a square, which they never actually arrived that way. The cutout was usually contoured around the actual text itself. So that's not that big of a deal, but something that I wanted to point out. Now, a lot of these models that we're going to be looking at today do come with that original Fender threaded saddle bridge. This one is obviously bigger for the Bass 6, but as you can see here, the string spacing is a bit inconsistent, so you're going to have to expect to dial that in before you start playing it. So it didn't take much. I just had to move 2 of these strings, and unplugged here, I am not getting any buzzing, so none of the nut slots have been cut too deep when I play open notes here. And let's go ahead and plug this in. All right, we are plugged into the Princeton Reverb reissue here. We're on the middle and bridge pickup together. Now the middle pickup by itself. All right, now the neck pickup by itself. So there it is, the Vintera III Bass 6. This thing is awesome. As I said before, just out of the box, a couple of things. It's definitely going to need a setup. The mute is not currently working out of the box, which sucks. This thing didn't come with a vibrato arm, but overall, it was nice to see that I think this is coming with much nicer tuners than they've come with in the past. The pickups sound good. So based on looks alone here, it doesn't seem like any changes have been made to the vibrato or tremolo unit since the Vintera IIs. These are the same made in Korea units that they used on that last series. These have the pop-in vibrato arms and are quite good, and definitely not one that I would be swapping out to, say, an American vintage reissue unit, because these are about 85% to 90% as good. So the Vintera III Base 6 does come in two additional colors. One of them is Olympic white with a tortoiseshell pickguard and no matching headstock on that one. And it also comes in a three-tone sunburst. And despite it being an early 60s model, they did go with the same kind of target or clown burst for their three-tone sunburst version. That basically means that the yellow and red part of the sunburst finish is not transparent at all, so you can't see any of the wood grains. It's completely opaque, but it's very, very nice as per the photos that I have seen so far. And also, if you've seen any of the other reviews of any of the Vintera III models, we are seeing that these thankfully are now fully shielded again. The cavities now have the shielding paint, and also these come with cloth covered wiring on top of the premium CTS and Switchcraft electronics. So that is definitely a very, very nice touch. Especially because this one here comes in at $14.99, the most expensive of the four offset guitar models. And yeah, just awesome. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, here we've got our Mustang, and I am stoked to see this one as well. If you've been watching the channel over the past, year or so, you'll see that I have covered the Mustang a lot. That's because personally, it's become one of my favorite models. It didn't always used to be that way. So I am really, really looking forward to checking this out. This one is supposed to be their mid-60s Mustang. So gone are the competition stripes from the last model. Gone also are the contours that was on the Vintera II 70s model. This is more like an homage, I would say, to the first or second year of production with the Mustang. So boy, oh boy, what color did we get? Oh yeah. So we got the Sonic Blue model, and to be honest with you all, this is more, I would say, of a Daphne Blue than a Sonic Blue. I know that my lights are blowing out the color a little bit, but in person, it's definitely much more saturated than Sonic Blue, or at least a proper Sonic Blue to my eyes. So, wow. This thing, just out of the box here, is probably going to be the lightest of the models that we checked out today. So that is definitely nice to see. And wow. Wow, 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 wow. This is freaking awesome. I really, really like the neck profile here of this Mustang. I've actually got the Vintera II Mustang, my Sherwood green one here, and similar to my findings with the Base 6, I can see here that this one does have a bit of a rounder, fuller neck. And we're going to check that out, obviously, with actual figures using our calipers in the deep dive video. But yeah, I can just see even from the side profile alone that this is a slightly fuller neck. It feels like a rounder neck, so a bit more shoulder to the neck profile. And yeah, just really, really nice. Now, thankfully, unlike our Base 6, this did come with its vibrato arm in the little sleeve here. And it looks like, as far as the factory setup is concerned, that it is fairly good. Again, on the conservative side, I feel like they set these up a little higher than I personally would like, but still seemingly very, very playable here from the factory. Now, looking at this thing up close, it is an immaculate finish overall. I'm not really seeing any finish imperfections here. Again, we've got the decal sitting over the finish, right? As you can see there. And again, we have that square custom offset body decal there. I don't know if these were real clay dots, but again, in line with a 1964, which was their first year of production, or a 1965 Mustang before they switched over to the pearloid dots. You can also see that this has the white button vintage style tuners. So these are not the F tuners. And also, like the Base 6, I am noticing that this does have the stamp on the tuners. So I am curious to see, once we do a deep dive, if these are indeed the rebranded, pure vintage tuners, basically made by Goto in Japan. That would be really, really nice to see. And based on the tuning that I did on the Bass 6, those felt really, really nice and tight and high quality. So yeah, I'm curious to see what those are about. Aside from that, this is also coming with the same Mustang bridge as the Vintera II. And with that, you can see that they have not changed the string spacing. I do not know if that's just to kind of shoot for the vintage accuracy. That is 56 millimeter string spacing. So you can see that the outer E's are still coming close to the edge of the fretboard, which is an issue for some players, but not so much for me. And one other thing that is very, very nice to see on this series, and it's also featured on all of these models across the board, is these now all come with a proper bone nut. They've done away with the synthetic bone as they had done on both the Vintera 1s and 2s. So that is really awesome that they made that change and seem to actually listen to the wants of the offset guitar community. Now, this is one thing I'm going to take a second to check out, because I did see some reports either on Reddit or offsetguitars.com that for whatever reason, whoever took a look under the hood of their Mustang did not see any shielding, which would be disappointing, because other folks have reported that the other offset guitar models in the Vintera III lineup all had shielding paint again. So let's go ahead and just unscrew this here and take a look. So indeed, they were telling the truth. I do not know if it's because this is the cheapest of all of the Vintera III models. You do have cloth covered wiring all across the board here, and you've got your CTS pots, but I am, at least here where the electronics are, I am not seeing any shielding. It is yet to be determined whether there is any shielding underneath the actual pickups or the switches. So yeah, that's a little bit disappointing. Not sure why they chose to do that and include it on the other models, but it is what it is. After tuning up very quickly, it definitely does feel like a fuller, rounder C shape here. And that is true of some of the earlier 60s Mustangs, the first runs of them. Sometimes you get really slim ones, and sometimes you get ones that are more of a baseball bat. I'm not feeling as much of a taper here as I felt on the Vintera II. And so, yeah, it is very, very true to a 1964 and also 65 actual vintage Mustangs that I have owned as well as serviced here in the shop. All right, we are now plugged in. Let's just go ahead and do a quick run to see what this thing sounds like. This is both pickups together in parallel. Wow. Actually, I think I like the sound of these a bit more than I like the 70s ones. They sound a bit darker to my ears. They definitely are making the tube amp cook a bit more. One last detail that I am seeing here, like with the Vintera II Mustang, is that it does seem like they have dialed in a decent amount of height to the vibrato. So it's likely that this has already been set up for floating operation. But if you've seen any of the Mustang videos that I've released over the past year, especially where I go into detail about the setup of the Mustang's dynamic vibrato, this is most likely going to take a bit of dialing in to get set up right so that it stays in tune and is overall just very stable when using the vibrato. Now, the Mustang is the cheapest of all of the Vintera III offset guitar models, coming in at $1,249. And it also comes in 2 additional colors. Fender went with the classic lineup with Dakota Red as well as Olympic White. And this one, as I said to you before, looks more like Daphne blue to my eyes in person, more so than a Sonic blue, which is typically more desaturated and also brighter of a blue overall. So it seems like Fender really overall is truly paying homage to those classic 60s Mustang colors before they switch over to the competition stripes. Now, overall, at least as far as first impressions go, I'm super impressed with the Vintera III Mustang. It does remind me a lot of the Fender Japan 65 reissue that was out in the late 2000s and early 2010s. That one had long been my favorite reissue Mustang ever produced, and this already, I can tell, is going to be up there. So there it is, the Fender Vintera III Mustang. All right, moving along, we've got our next one here. And this one is the Jazzmaster, and this is a mid-60s Jazzmaster. So I believe they're paying homage here to the 1964, 1965 Jazzmasters before they started doing bound necks. So if they are faithful to a mid-60s Jazzmaster, we can come to expect a much fuller feeling neck overall, especially based on the 64 and 65 pre-binding Jazzmasters that I've had in the shop and have owned myself. And again, I don't know what color I had gotten in the lottery here, but it looks like we have gotten our Olympic white version here. And wow. But thankfully in the gig bag, we do have the vibrato arm in here. I feel like they definitely hit the nail on the head as far as that mid-60s neck profile goes. Definitely a bit thicker than what you'll find on the Vintera II or the Vintera II road-worn Jazzmaster. Definitely fuller up here at the 12th fret, and also up here at the 1st fret. I really dig the Olympic white. I've already seen some folks on forums like Offset Guitars griping that this white is too yellow, and to my eyes, this looks very, very similar to the American Vintage 62 Jazzmasters, especially ones that had been around for a couple of years and had naturally yellowed from being exposed to sun. Very rarely are you going to find a vintage model that is actually pure white, so I quite like that. Now, for comparison, I actually do have a Vintera I Jazzmaster here in the shop right now. This is a client, and the neck profiles on these, they are very, very similar. It might even be a bit rounder on the new Vintera III one here, but they feel like they have a similar thickness overall. And unlike the Vintera I, which came with vintage fret, the new Vintera III does come with vintage tall fret. All of the models across the board for the Vintera IIIs come with vintage tall fret, which is not that much taller than vintage fret. So just gives you more material come the time that you need to do a fret level. So that is nice to see. It is a bit of a bummer that the Olympic white did not see a matching headstock. I myself do dig matching headstocks, but because there is no three-tone sunburst model for the Jazzmaster, it makes sense that they would make an option that didn't have one, because I've come to find out matching headstocks are quite polarizing and not everybody likes them, and it looks really classy even without one here. Now, like the other mid-60s models that we are seeing here, we do have these kind of clay dots or faux clay dots. I'm not sure if they are actually clay or just kind of tinted from the top here. These also do have rosewood fretboards and bone nuts, as I had mentioned before, which is very, very nice to see. And this too also has the decal over the finish. And unlike the other headstocks that I had just slight gripe with those square offset body decals, this one here is part of the rest of the text. So it's not separate, and it is cut out to the correct vintage accurate shape. This one also comes with those single line vintage style tuners. We're not sure if these are actually the made in Japan high quality ones. Actually, on a mid-60s Jazzmaster, you would have seen the Klusen double line tuners by that time. So So a little bit inaccurate, but again, these are not supposed to be actual reissues and more homages to the era. So not a big deal, and just a nice little aesthetic detail that they've added on this series. Like with the Jaguar and Basics, this one also comes with the original threaded saddle bridge, a bridge that not everybody gets on with, and a lot of folks I know are going to be itching to upgrade to, at minimum, a Mustang style bridge, or a Mastery or Tough Set or Offset Guitars UK's Mustang bridge, which is my personal favorite. Now, out of the box, I would guess that this thing is probably 8 pounds even, or just a little bit over. So not overly heavy, and it feels nice and balanced in hand. And yeah, as I was saying before, this neck just feels really, really comfy. And one thing I haven't touched on yet is just the quality of the neck finish. It doesn't feel overly plasticky to me. It feels like they went with a thinner coat overall than what they did with the Vintera II models. Just a nice, high quality feeling finish overall here, and not too dissimilar feeling to the Nitro models on the more expensive ones, with the added benefit that this here is not going to get all sticky and gummy like some of the the Nitro finishes featured, for example, on the American Vintage II Jazzmaster, or some of the, like the Johnny Marr Jaguars that I have played over the past couple of years, that have a kind of gummier, stickier feel to them. This feels very, very nice and smooth out of the box. Now, like with the other models that we've already covered today, this one you can expect to also have the high quality CTS Switchcraft components under the hood. This one, I've already seen some folks showing that this is fully shielded with shielding paint in the cavities, as well as cloth covered wiring throughout, which again, especially at this price point, this one is $1349. That is a very nice upgrade and detail to see. You're not going to have to be upgrading your wiring harness anytime soon, because this is the same components that they use on the much more expensive American Vintage II Jazzmaster. All right, and we are tuned up, and I've got to say, this one is probably the best setup of all of the offsets that we've tried so far today. So on the spec sheet, Fender lists these as mid-60s Jazzmaster pickups, so I expect these to sound not too dissimilar from the pure vintage 65 Jazzmaster pickups that a lot of the community knows very well. So let's go ahead and try this out. This is both pickups together in parallel. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, my first impressions of these pickups, yeah, they do sound, they actually sound like they have a bit more character to me than the pure vintage 65 pickups, which is nice. It's got a bit more color and grit to it, which I always appreciate. And yeah, I'm excited to do a bit more of a deep dive and checking out these sounds that you can get from this thing. So as I'd mentioned before, this does come in at $1,349, right in the middle of the range of prices for the Vintera III offset guitars. This also comes in 2 additional colors. So matching headstock fans rejoice, because both the candy apple red version as well as the sonic blue version both come with matching headstocks. Yeah, overall, first impressions is I am impressed with this. It is nice to see a bit fuller of a neck again, but they didn't go full chunky with this. It's a very, very on point homage to the mid 60s. I dig the little details that they've done to the aesthetics, for example, with the clay dots as well as with the single line tuners. I love that they included, again, a bone nut and the cloth covered wiring here. And overall, the setup out of the box is pretty darn good, better than I expected. So yeah, the Vintera III Jazzmaster. Look out for the full review coming soon. Now, last but most certainly not least, we've got our Vintera III Jaguar here. I think this is the one that I honestly I'm probably most excited about, because it's no secret, especially if you're familiar with the channel, that the Jag is my favorite of all of the offset guitars. And it has not seen the kind of love that it deserves over the past couple of years, especially after the American original 60s Jaguar was discontinued, and the Vintera II 70s Jaguar with that maple neck with the black blocks and binding was definitely, again, polarizing and not for everyone. It's not an aesthetic that a lot of folks are into. And so this is going to be nice to see. I don't know what color we're getting here. I am hoping for shell pink, but I am curious to see what we got. Again, with the deluxe padded gig bag here, I honestly, I'm not one of the people that's going to gripe that these don't come with a hard shell case. I actually do personally, especially since I gig out, I personally prefer gig bags over bulky hard shell cases, and I live in New York City. So space and real estate in the apartment is definitely priority over getting, you know, one of those classic series hardwood cases, which are also quite heavy in my personal opinion. So it's not one that I would ever actually use in practice. All right, so I can already tell through this styrofoam sleeve what color we got. And actually, I'm stoked to see this, because I don't think I've seen anyone else show this model yet. But we got the 3-tone sunburst, the clown burst, as I'd said, and wow. Wow, wow, wow. Now, that looks friggin' amazing to me. Actually, my very first serious Fender guitar was an American Standard Telly, and one of my first serious offset guitars was a classic player Jazzmaster back in 2008, and both were sunburst, so I definitely have a soft spot for a nice burst, and this one just looks really, really nice. As I was explaining to you all before, you can see that you cannot see the grain underneath that finish at all here, and the transition between the red and the yellow is really, really nice. Maybe not quite as harsh as an actual 60s Target or Clownburst. The yellow is definitely not as bright as the ones that I have seen, particularly ones from the later 60s, but just a nice finish here overall. And you can see also on the back, no grain whatsoever. I am definitely feeling across the board, I think these mid 60s necks are a bit fuller in hand, but not overly chunky feeling. This feels not too dissimilar to me to the feel in hand or the thickness of the Johnny Marr Jaguar. So that is really, really nice to see. And the highlight, obviously, of this model, the thing that Jaguar aficionados around the world are geeking out about, is the fact that this actually comes with a mute at this price point, which is awesome to see. And unlike the base 6, as I engage this, we are seeing that it actually does, the foam actually does make contact with all of the strings. So the mute wasn't set too low, and yeah, and it works. So stoked on that. The rosewood here looks fairly good. It's nice and chocolatey, not quite as dark as some of the ones that are coming out of Fender Japan, but nice nonetheless. It's got a nice quality, dark tortoiseshell pick guard here to match. And like the other models, this one also comes with those single line Fender tuners. And again, the decal over the finish here with the unfortunate square offset custom body part of the decal. I wish they had gotten that right. It would have been something that's like so easy to nail. But again, very, very minor gripe. And like the others, this does finally, thankfully, come with a proper bone nut. And based on some of the early findings of other folks who have shared their Vintera III Jaguars, these are fully shielded with shielding paint in all of the cavities. And on top of that, these also feature the CTS pots and your switchcraft switches, as well as that cloth covered wiring throughout, which again is a super, super nice detail to see, especially because there's actually been a price drop on this one. $1349 versus $1499, which is what the Jaguars cost from the Vintera II when those came out. So yeah, that is awesome to see. I am curious to hear what this thing sounds like. So let's go ahead and get this thing plugged in. All right, we've got now both pickups together in parallel, and you can see on standby here that it is fairly quiet. And let's see when we switch to the bridge pickup by itself. Yeah, you hear a bit of 60 cycle hum here, but it is nice to see that they shielded the guitar again. All right, so we are all plugged in. Let's see what it sounds like. Both pickups together in parallel. Sounds like a proper Jaguar should. Initial impressions is the pickups are great. They sound similar to me again to the pure vintage 65, but they sound like they do have a bit more color to them, a bit more character to them than even those, which always sound just a bit too sterile to me. So that is nice to see overall, at least with both pickups engaged. It's fairly quiet, and I really am digging this neck profile. Man, after having checked out all of these, I think it's just an impressive series overall. I am really digging the new neck feels on these. If I was blindfolded, folks, I would not be able to tell the difference in feel between this and say some of the higher quality Fender Japan stuff. I'm not gonna lie, even though I am probably one of the biggest fans of Fender Japan offset guitars, this one here might be just a bit more impressive to me than even those, especially because at least with the Jaguars for the past couple of years, those MIJ traditional 60s and traditional 60s 2s have all been coming, at least with the Jaguars and the Mustangs, have all been coming with 40mm nut widths. They have those U-shaped necks, which have very little taper from the 1st to the 12th fret. And they're not for everybody. They're full in hand and they're fairly comfortable to play on, but I find, especially when playing bar chords on those U-shaped necks, that they are fatiguing to play, at least for my, bigger hands. I do not get on very well with that 40mm nut width. And so this here being that proper 42mm is very, very nice to see. Now, it's funny because unlike the Jazzmaster here, this one actually has the period accurate perloid dot inlays, right? So for a 64 and a 65 Jazzmaster and Jaguar, you would have seen perloid dot inlays on them. So it was funny that they went with the clay dots for the Jazzmasters at least, but that is nice. And I think, my friends, that this one, as I said from the top, which one would be the one that I go for? I think it's going to have to be the Jag, or maybe it's a toss-up between the Jag and the Mustang. I like both of them very, very much. I really, really dig the neck feel between the two. And I would say the Mustang has a slightly rounder feel to its neck than this Jaguar. But yeah, this feels really, really premium to me. And just overall, the changes that they've made here have all been positive changes and ones that should make you all, especially if you've been in the market for a while, for a new offset guitar, should definitely make you excited about this series, because I think by and large, Fender really, really knocked it out of the park here. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you found it enjoyable as well as exciting, especially if you've been in the market for a new Jaguar or Jazzmaster or Bass 6 or Mustang, if you were waiting for this series and held off on the enticing sales of the Vintera IIs, for example, around President's Day of this year, I think you made the right choice. I did really love the Vintera II series overall, but this is a noticeable step up in so many departments, and I am just so stoked, beyond impressed overall with this series, especially at the price points that they are all being sold at. It's just really, really nice to see. I know I didn't cover all of the details that I usually do on the deep dive, so again, look out for the individual reviews of each of these models, which are going to be coming out every week for the next month. I want to take this opportunity to thank our kind friends over at Zounds. This video would not be possible without them. And on that note, if you are interested in buying one or more of these, I highly suggest that you get them from our friends at Zounds. I've said time and again, Zounds has long been my favorite retailer, especially because not only are they fantastic to work with and have excellent customer service, but if you need to do a payment plan and split up your purchase to 4, 6, or 12 months, they make it super easy for you. There's no lengthy application process, no background check, no credit check, and always their payment plans are interest-free. I have left affiliate links down below in the description of this video, and as you know, if you use those affiliate links, it goes a long way in helping this channel, especially to continue to create more videos just like this one. As always, if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell to be notified of new videos as soon as they drop. And don't forget to follow Totally Wired Guitars for more offset guitars buying tips.